Today we are going to discuss collection of data in legal research. Collection of data is an important facet of research, though the collection and handling of information is very important. Many of the students are not aware of the techniques, the actual techniques to be followed in proper collection of data. Through collection and handling of information, the researcher begin to feel the actual excitement of research. A researcher can either collect the data himself or rely on others for their collected data or information available with them. In both the cases, there is a great need of data of high quality. The selection of data requires great skill and experience. Then what is a data? Data is plural and singular form is datum. If we are referring to a single piece of information, it is datum. A datum is what is observed is a manifest or phenotypical. A data in socio-legal studies are based on sense observations. The word observation used here includes all forms of perception used in recording responses as they impinge upon our senses. But response is not a datum. A response is some manifest kind of action, whereas a datum is the product of the process of recording the response. In data collection, stimuli is presented to the respondent, that is subject. The stimuli may be classified as systematic stimuli and unsystematic stimuli. By systematic stimuli, we mean those that are kept constant while objects are changed. The unsystematic stimuli are those which lack standardization. Example, questions asked in informal interviews. Then primary and authoritative source. These portions are very important. What are primary sources of legal research? The primary source of law are those authoritative records of law which are made by law-making bodies. These records are constitution of the country. The second one, legislation or statutes made by parliament or state legislatures. Third one, rules, regulations, orders, bylaws of those bodies to whom parliament or state legislature has delegated authority. Fourth one, the authoritative reports of the decision of the court, that is case law. Fifth one, administrative proceedings or decisions or orders issued by administrative agencies who are authorized to do so. Sixth one, executive orders and proclamations and treaties and protocols and compacts between countries. Then seventh one, the court recognized the existence of customary law. The response of the subject to the stimuli may also be classified as systematic and unsystematic responses. Here, systematic responses have a reference to the constant response categories. Thus, the response of subject to a stimulus are recorded. The unsystematic responses are those which are recorded verbatim with due regard to possible individual variation and characterological nuances. Then let us examine what are the secondary sources of data collection. The sources of data collection are two types, primary and secondary. In primary, or field source or internal source of data, it is original information collected for the first time. A primary data collection is the information collected for the first time. It is also called internal source of data, as the data is collected directly from the subjects. They are obtained from living person directly related to the problem or through observation. This primary source can again be subdivided into direct primary and indirect primary. So, in the primary or field source can again subdivided into direct primary and indirect primary. Then coming to direct primary source, the researcher personally goes and observes events, things, behavior, activities, etc. He has to display great skill and objectivity. Observation can be of three subtypes. First one, participant observation. Second one, non-participant observation. And third one, quasi-participant observation. Then coming to second category, that is indirect primary source. In indirect primary source, the researcher cannot observe things which occurred long back. He need to contact those persons who have made observations relevant to his research. This can be done through interviews, questionnaire or schedules. Then second category, secondary or external source of data. This information is obtained from outside, either from a published source or from someone else who has already worked on the subject. They save a researcher the labor of collecting data again and preventing unnecessary expenditure. They can be broadly divided into two types, personal documents and published documents. Personal documents consist of life history, diaries, letters, memoirs, etc. It is very difficult to obtain them or put them to proper usage. Public documents come from public bodies, government and private organizations. Apart from books available in library, this category include records, published statistics, records, reports of newspapers and journals and special reports, film or TV program, tapes and so on. Unpublished documents are not easily available. Documentary sources are very important because past events can be known only through them. They may reveal certain secrets. They can help to save time, money and energy. Then relationship between primary and secondary sources. Primary data once collected will become secondary data for others. The researcher collecting primary data knows the reality and limitation of the problem. Second-hand data provides hypothesis for the problem. This hypothesis can be tested or verified on the basis of first-hand data. Secondary data becomes third-hand data if they are mentioned by someone else. Primary data can be considered as being most reliable. The secondary sources are available in a law library. That is, so the books available in a law library constitute secondary data, while statutes, rules, regulations, notifications, etc. become primary data. Original or primary material source of law. What are the original or primary material sources of law? It is enumerated into several categories. Like I think almost 7 categories are there. The first one is enacted law having a source in legislation. Enacted law having source in legislation. The supreme legislation is made by the sovereign power of the nation. In democratic countries, parliament is sovereign. It is considered not only supreme but legally omnipotent. But there may be certain constitutional restrictions upon its power. Subordinate legislation is made by any other authority than the supreme authority in its nation. It is made under the powers delegated by the supreme authority. Such legislation is also considered as law. Subordinate laws are executive made laws and local laws by local bodies. Then second category, case law having a source in precedent. Case law having a source in precedent. Precedent is defined as a previous instance or case which is or may be taken as an example of rule for subsequent cases or by which some similar act or circumstance may be supported or justified. In the judicial field, it means the guidance or authority of past decisions for future causes. Only such decisions as lay down some new rule or principle are called judicial precedents. Then third one, customary law having its source in custom. Customs are the most important source of law. But with the progress of the society, they gradually diminish and legislation and judicial precedents become the main source. In every legal system and at all the stages of legal development, there are some customs accepted by society. The customs having sanction are those customs which are enforced by the state. Legal customs operate on the binding rule of law. They have been recognized by the courts and have become a part of the law of the land. Fourth category is conventional law having source in agreement. Conventional law having its source in agreement. The conventional law are those customs which govern the parties to an agreement. Parties agree to them. Such customs are binding not due to any legal authority independently possessed by them, but because it has been the contract between the parties to it. There is a bulk of conventional law in every country. Then fifth one, statutory interpretation. The law which comes into being through legislation is called enacted or statute law. It is for the court to apply these formula to specific cases. The court has to ascertain the meaning of the letters and expressions of the enactment for its application. This process of ascertaining the meaning of the letters and expressions by the court is called interpretation. In this process, judge exert considerable influence on the statute law. Sixth one is codification. Codification means promulgation, compilation and collection and sometimes systematization of the body of law in coherent form by an authority. In a state competent to do so. In India, there are certain codes of Manu, Yajnavalkya, Brihaspati, Narada, Parashara, etc. These various codes are applied in different parts of the country. In modern times, the Indian Law Commission drafted a number of codes such as Indian Penal Code, the Civil Procedure Code, etc. The Law Commission made comprehensive and voluminous recommendations, many of which have been implemented. There are other sources of law like morals and equity, opinion of expert, etc. Then seventh category is case law. The legal practitioner, judge, researcher of law, etc. has to involve in search of law to be applied to a case in hand, because no lawyer knows more than a relatively infinitesimal part of the law, nor does any judge. But they have to know how to find law and where to find law. Lawyers draw relevant proposition of law to be applied in a case in hand from two important sources, that is judgment made by higher courts, that is precedents, and the legislations. One cannot find out law applicable to a fact situation covered by a single source of law. Often the legal proposition to be applied in a fact situation cannot be drawn from a particular source of law. A precedent is primarily a case law which serves as the authority for deciding a similar case. In many instances, case laws have played an important role in interpretation of statutes. So, in that sense, it is we can say it's very important in that sense. Then documentary source of data for legal studies. The secondary source of data. Data can be made available from different sources. Then this kind Young has classified this data into two groups. First one documentary and second one field source. There are two kind of data according to P.V. Young. A legal document is anything that contains matters of socio-legal importance. Most of the documents are written in the past when the phenomenon took place, are not specially prepared for the study of the present problem. Then importance of personal documents. The personal documents express innermost feeling of the heart of the writer, and at times these documents throw light into aspect of life. So this kind of documents have importance in legal research. Then coming to limitations of personal documents, the availability of personal documents may be difficult if they contain some confessions which are likely to damage the reputation. Then second one, unreliability of the data may be there due to personal bias of the writer. Third one, personal documents do not provide a reliable sample and the document may be considered as valid one. Then there are certain categories of document resources. I am not going to explain because it is not much important. So, but you have to have a certain awareness about it. So, I'm just enumerating it. First one is Central Legislative Material in Gazettes of India. The second one, official publications of Central Acts. Then third one, State Gazette. Fourth one, private publication. Fifth one, departmental publication. Sixth one, delegate legislation. Seventh one, publication. Eighth one, a report. Ninth one, a specialized law reporter. 10th one, contribution of individual academicians. 11th one, academic law journals. These are main attributes of the system. Then importance of documents. They can help to save time, money and energy. The data is collected periodically, making the establishment of trends over time possible. These are the importance of documents.